You awaken to the worst frankability in history, a 1 cube meter storage space. The school mocks you as a portable box for carrying bricks, but they don't know the true horror of space laws. If you placed half that space over someone's head, and the other half stayed open, then snapped shut. Exactly, it becomes an absolute cut, ignoring all defense. And what if you took that 1 cube meter space and split it into 10 spaces? Next, Lin Ann. A cold, mechanical voice echoes in the awakening hall. Thousands of eyes fall on you at once. Wearing a faded old-school uniform, you walk from the corner onto the platform. You place your hand on the awakening stone. In this world, monsters roam free. The hierarchy is strict. Whatever ability you awaken determines exactly how high you will rise. It even determines if he and his family can escape their lowly fate. So, at this moment, everyone is watching. But when the awakening stone lit up, the light was pitifully weak. A grayish-white halo only thinly coated the surface. Like a flickering candle in the wind, the crowd fell silent, then erupted into waves of laughter. You call this an awakening? Gray-white light. What a useless ability. I've never even heard of it. It probably doesn't even count as level 1. The instructor looked at the final text on the screen. Shaking his head in disappointment, he announced directly, Lin Ann, level 1 ability. Storage space? Note, volume is 1 cubic meter. As soon as he said this, the entire hall went wild with laughter. A 1 cubic meter storage space. Isn't that just a small, portable box? Even logistics would reject him for carrying too little. Haze from the slums. Even his ability reeks of poverty. Harsh mockery rained down from all sides. But you just quietly withdrew your hand. Staring at those cold words, there was no anger on your face. No resentment, only a dead silence. You knew very well that when you have no power, emotions are worthless. But then, right at that moment, a blinding golden light exploded from backstage, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Young Master Zhao Zi, S rank. It's the Red Lotus Hellfire. The Zhao bloodline is truly terrifying. Amidst the Zhao family heir, Zhao Zi, walked up, surrounded by pale flames. He wore a magnificent school uniform, his expression blatantly superior. Unlike you, he was born at the finish line. Now, he has awakened a top-tier offensive ability. From now on, resources, status, and future prospects will all gravitate toward him. But he didn't stop to enjoy the cheers. Instead, he walked straight to you, looking down at you from above, a cruel sneer curling his lips. Lin and I wondered who it was. So, it's you, the little rat hiding in the sewers? He raised a finger burning with flames, pointing it at your chest across the air. Mocking you word by word. Level 1 storage space. 1 cubic meter is actually perfect. When your pauper sister is gone, you can use it to store her remains. At the mention of your sister, the dead water in your eyes finally stirred. A flash of icy killing intent passed through. Zhao Zi caught this tiny change and laughed even more wildly. What? You don't like it? A guy like you, just standing here breathing, is a waste of Jiang City's air. With that, he turned directly to Instructor Wang. His tone wasn't a request, but a command. Doesn't the school have one more spot for a poor student? To be recommended to the War Academy? I recall it was meant for him, right? Instructor Wang's face turned pale, and he whispered, based on grades and overall evaluation, this spot was originally for Lin Ann. Well, now it's gone. Zhao Zi's tone was flat, yet it held the power of life and death. In a school with me, Zhao Zi, I won't see a mediocre fool, unfit, even for logistics. Taking up resources, Instructor Wang tried to resist, but this is against the rules. Rules. Zhao Zi sneered. His flames flared up suddenly. In Jiang City, what the Zhao family says is the rule. The hall fell into instant silence. No one spoke up for you. Everyone just watched you, some with sympathy, some with malicious glee, and others waiting for you to break. But you didn't break. You simply looked up at Zhao Zi. Your gaze was terrifyingly calm, as if looking at someone with no future. What Zhao Zi hated most was that exact look. The smile on his face slowly vanished. He said gloomily, "Fine. I really don't like that look of yours. Get lost." Instructor Wang sighed and handed over a form. Just sign it. It's a withdrawal application. Staying in school with this ability is pointless. Accept your fate. Go to the factory and find some manual work. At least you can feed yourself. You took the application, glanced at it, then picked up the pen and wrote your name on the signature line. Your handwriting was steady. Without the slightest hesitation, after signing, you handed the form back and turned to leave, without arguing a single word, because in your code of survival, you never argue with the dead. As soon as you stepped out of the school gates, the sky turned dark. Lightning tore through the clouds, and heavy rain pounded down, drenching you instantly. But as if you couldn't feel the cold, you just walked forward numbly. Then, the second-hand phone in your pocket, its screen cracked like a web, suddenly started vibrating. After you answered, a cold voice from the hospital came through. This is City First Hospital. Your sister Lin Shaw's abyssal frost has worsened. She has been moved to the ice. You must pay 100,000 star coins within 24 hours. For the special treatment, no. 1 medicine. If the fees aren't paid, we must stop treatment per regulations and move the patient out of the ice. 100,000 star coins. The number hit your brain like a hammer. To the rich, it's just a number. But to you, it's an astronomical sum beyond reach. You spoke urgently. Doctor, please give me a few more days. The call was cut off, leaving only a cold dial tone. Standing in the torrential rain, your fingers slowly tightened, crushing the wet withdrawal form into pulp. The last trace of restraint on your face vanished, leaving only resolve and madness. School is gone. Legal ways are impossible. This world and its rules never intended to let you and Lin Sha live. Then you'll just have to take it. And so, you spun around, heading toward the slums forgotten by light and order. The further in you went, the darker the road became. Finally, you turned into the deepest, filthiest, and darkest alley without even a street. Your gaze completely changed at that moment. I'll use my life to take what I need. However, as soon as you said that, a thick, nauseating stench mixed with a beastly musk lunged from the depths of the alley. Immediately after, 2 crimson lanterns quietly lit up in the dark. Those weren't lights, they were a pair of eyes. A tier 2 mutant beast that should be outside the city walls. A shadow wolf? This type of beast is known for its speed and claws, a true nightmare for recruits. If an ordinary person faced it hidden, forget winning. Surviving 3 seconds would be a miracle, but just as the thought of fleeing crossed your mind, you immediately snuffed it out. Turning your back on a wolf will only lead to a swifter defeat. So, instead of retreating, you advanced. Taking a half step forward, lowering your center of gravity, your right hand grabbed a rusty piece of sharp scrap rebar from the ground like lightning, holding it across your chest. This was the instinct you traded blood and bone for in the slum pits. Facing a stronger enemy, the more you fear losing, the faster you'll lose only by being more ruthless and more desperate. Can you hope to carve out a chance of survival? Man and wolf faced off in the muddy, dark alley. The next second, the shadow wolf moved. It lunged like a black aiming straight for your throat. You could barely see its movements, relying on instincts forged through countless life and death fights. At the last moment, you twisted your body violently to the right. Rip. You saved your throat. But your left shoulder and arm were slashed by its claws. A large chunk of flesh was torn away instantly, crimson liquid spraying out immediately. The agonizing pain made your vision blur, but you didn't retreat. On the contrary, the pain seemed to ignite the ferocity in your bones. You let out a roar. Using the momentum of your twist, you stabbed the rebar toward its eyes with a backhand strike. The strike was fast enough and ruthless enough, but you underestimated the terror of a tier 2 beast. The shadow wolf jerked its head in midair. The rebar failed to pierce its eye. Instead, striking its hard skull with a clang, it was stuck barely half an inch deep. Pained and enraged, the shadow wolf violently shook its head. You couldn't hold on to the rebar and were pulled down to the ground. What followed was a truly savage brawl. You rolled with it in the sewage and mud. It tore at your flesh again and again with its claws, while you fought like a completely crazed beast, abandoning most of your defense, using fists, elbows, knees, and even teeth to strike every lethal spot. 3 Bonaduke gashes were carved into your back. The shoulder wound bled continuously. As your stamina and consciousness ebbed away, you grew slower with each hit, your breathing more erratic. Finally, the shadow wolf seized its chance, violently slamming you against the wall. Your head reeled from the impact, stars dancing before your eyes. In the next second, the heavy wolf carcass pinned you down, its claws pressed firmly against your shoulders, pinning you into the corner. You couldn't move. It lowered its head, its foul maw, less than 5 centimeters from your throat. You could see every stain on its fangs. Despair crawled over your body like ice. But just then, Lin Shai's pale but smiling face flashed through your mind. Brother? When I get better, I want to eat tanghulu from the shop south of the city. You can't lose. If you lose, what happens to Lin Shia? What about the 100,000 star credits? What about the hospital's order to stop treatment? Just as the shadow wolf opened its wide maw, ready to crush your skull, your chaotic, dying brain suddenly fell into an unprecedented calm. Pain, fear, resentment were all suddenly drained away. Only 2 things remained in your world: that closing wolf head and the ability everyone mocked as useless. Storage space. What is space? It's a box that can't be seen or touched, but truly exists. Since it's a box, it must have edges. And those edges, when opening and closing, appear and disappear. A legifying, insane thought split your consciousness. What if an object was caught exactly on that edge? Your gaze fixed on where the wolf's head met its neck. The next second, you poured all your mental power, all your will, and even all your life force into a single crystal clear thought. Place the upper half of the space within the air above the wolf's neck. The edge of the space must precisely intersect the head and neck. Close. The storage space snapped shut instantly. The weight pressing on you suddenly lightened. Immediately after, hot, thick liquid sprayed over your head and face like a burst dam. Leaning against the wall, you gasped for air like a broken bellows. Looking down, your pupils contracted sharply. The shadow wolf's body was still slumped by your legs, but its head was gone. The cut on the neck was terrifyingly smooth, as if sliced cleanly by the sharpest laser. Fur, blood vessels, bone, and nerves, all were perfectly aligned. Without a single jagged edge, you subconsciously closed your eyes and sank your consciousness into your ability space. In the next moment, your whole body shuddered. That hideous wolf head was floating quietly in the center of that 1 cubic space. Its eyes still held the ferocity and shock from its final moment. The severed surface was as smooth as a mirror. You finally understood. The truly terrifying aspect of your ability was never the storage itself, but the spatial edge itself. As long as something was caught on that edge, whether flesh, bone, or steel, it would be severed by the laws of space. This isn't a normal attack. It defies physics. It ignores defense. It even disregards any gap in strength. It is absolute cutting at the level of rules. Was the Tier 2 beast's skull hard? It was still split in two. From now on, fire abilities, hardening abilities, or diamond bodies, if they can't withstand spatial laws, they are all meaningless. The ability the world deemed useless, at this very moment, has finally shown its true fangs. You looked at the wolf head in the space, the corners of your mouth slowly curling up. Finally unable to suppress the euphoria of tearing a path out of despair, you let out a low, maniacal laugh. Hey, ha ha ha. The laughter echoed in the rainy alley, tinged with the madness of survival and the coldness of seeing through fate's hand. But you quickly forced yourself to calm down. Because right now, what's most important isn't joy, but money. Enduring the tearing pain throughout your body, using that cheap folding dagger, with the basic skills learned processing beast parts, you slice open the Shadow Wolf's chest. Quickly, you dig out a fist-sized object near its heart. A crystal flowing with eerie blue light, a level 2 exotic beast core. And it's a remarkably intact shadow core. Official channels require a license for this. But in the underground black market, it is the hardest currency. At a conservative estimate, this core is worth at least 300,000 star credits. My sister's medical fees. Not only is it enough, there will be a massive surplus. You put the core into storage space. Then quickly clean up the scene. The wolf's remains are dragged to an obscure spot. You scatter a few meat scraps nearby, faking a beast attack or a gang shootout, abandoned in haste. Then, you take off that stained school uniform and toss it straight into a sewage bin. The school uniform represents the old, submissive, and helpless student identity. Starting now, that identity is over. You pull a loose black hooded coat from the trash. Then, with the last coins in your pocket, you buy the cheapest white plastic mask. On the mask, an eerie, unchanging smiley face is drawn. Hood up. Mask on, a brand new figure appears in the mirror. From this point on, the student Lin Anne no longer exists. Instead, there's only a predator of the night and shadows. You give yourself a new code name. It represents having nothing, but also the beginning of everything. Half an hour later, you reach Jiangcheng's largest trading hub, the Black Gold Market. The entrance is deep in an abandoned parking lot. Two burly men stand at the door, their waists bulging, clearly hiding weapons. Seeing your smiley mask and worn-out trench coat, they peg you as a rookie to be bullied. Hold it. Scarface sizes you up, his tone hostile. Where'd this brat come from? Playing ghost with a trashy mask? Do you know the rules? The bald one is more direct, reaching out to block you. Want in? Pay 100 credits for the search fee first. You stop walking. Silence. You just calmly scan them both. Finally resting on the weapon at Scarface's waist, less than a meter, just right. Scarface sees you're silent and reaches for his weapon. But before he can draw it, your mental power pierces the gun barrel. Space. Open. Edge. Covers the barrel. Space. Retrieve. Click. Half the barrel drops to the floor. The cut is both men freeze instantly. Scarface looks at his halved weapon. Then at the metal on the ground, a chill races up his spine. They didn't even see what you did. They only saw the barrel severed by thin air. The unknown is far more terrifying than strength. Baldy pulls his hand back, forcing a smile. Please, come in. You don't even spare them a glance. You walk straight into this lawless, profit-driven underground world. The market is much larger than it appears, and much more chaotic. The air smells of machine oil, cheap alcohol, and ozone. Neon signs cast faces in half-light. There are mercenaries and exoskeletons, doctors selling banned drugs, and brokers trading intel in the corners. You waste no time, heading for the grandest building, the Black Gold Chamber of Commerce. Behind the counter, a fat shopkeeper is polishing gems. He asks without looking up, selling what? You don't answer. You just reach over the counter. With a thought, the blue glowing crystal core lands heavily on the counter. The fat man pauses, slowly looking up, barely hiding his greed. But Hayes, a black market veteran, his shock lasts only half a second. Before turning into disdain, he examines the core half-heartedly, then tosses it back. Core quality, mixed energy, barely level 2. Take it or leave it. This isn't just low, it's practically robbery. But you aren't angry, nor do you haggle. You just give a soft sneer, recall the core into space, and turn to leave. The fat man panics. Only amateurs would argue. Walking away like this shows you know its true worth. Wait, the price is negotiable. You don't stop. I can't go higher. Only then do you stop. Turning halfway, your smiley mask looks eerie in the light. Put it on an anonymous card. The fat man's face twitches, but he finally agrees. Soon, unmarked metal card is pushed over. You take the card and leave. The moment you step outside, his smile vanishes. He signals a brute to take care of it. The brute grins, leading for tattooed thugs to follow you silently. You notice the 5 tails from the start. More importantly, while walking, you test a new use for your power. You pick up a pebble, storing it in space then, on the next step, you release it in front of you. The result? Carrying the momentum of your run, it shoots out like a bullet. You realize in that moment, the space can do more than cut. It can store and release kinetic energy. Thus, a more efficient kill plan is formed. You lead them through the market maze, ending up in an abandoned basement lot. It is dark, secluded, deserted, and lacks surveillance. Perfect for dealing with trouble. As expected, the moment you stop, they surround you from all sides, blocking every exit. The leader, holding an alloy machete, is full of Catan mouse mockery. Kid, you're pretty good at running. Leave the card. Now, hand over everything you have. We're in a good mood today. Maybe we'll let you suffer less. You slowly turn around. The white smiley mask looks eerie in the dim light. You don't get angry, nor do you make threats. You just ask in a cold.com voice. Are your heads worth much? The thug pauses in shock, then explodes in rage. Gripping his blade with both hands, he swings a heavy blow at your head. The blade tears through the air, whistling downward. Against an ordinary person, this strike would split them to the chest. But you don't retreat. Instead, you step into the blade. The moment the blade falls, the spatial edge has already swept past it. Then, the sharpest half of the blade vanishes. The thug's grip suddenly lightens. He stumbles forward from the lost momentum. But you have already slid within a meter of him. Space. Open. The edge envelops his neck. Space. Squelch. A dull thud follows. The thug's rage freezes instantly. His head and neck tattoo have vanished. A second later, crimson liquid erupts from the neck. The headless body keeps charging, then crashes heavily to the ground. The air turns dead silent. The remaining 4 thugs freeze. Their sneers are frozen stiff, replaced by pure terror. They didn't even see what you did. They just saw a man's head simply disappear. Finally, someone screams in a total breakdown. Ghost. The 4 turn and flee, but you won't let them leave alive? With a stomp of your foot, you glide like a shadow after the nearest one. Before he can even look back, he feels a chill on his neck. In the next second, all goes dark. The second one falls. You make no wasted moves. Each strike is the simplest, most lethal close aim. In close. The whole process took only seconds. 5 bodies now lie in the parking lot. Crimson liquid spreads quickly. Like an unfolding scroll from hell, you stand in the center. Your black coat perfectly clean. You crouch down and calmly search the body. Minutes later, you stand up. The harvest was quite good. Several stacks of cash. About 30,000 star credits. Plus an exquisite military alloy dagger. You store them in your space, then feel the black card in your pocket. Plus this senwen. It's enough. Finally, it's enough. Through the eerie smiley mask, your gaze pierces the darkness. Seeing the pale face in the ice, your once cold, dead eyes finally hold a hint of warmth. Shiaxia, brother has money to save you now. You whisper softly, tucking the card away carefully. You linger no longer, and turn to leave, abandoning the bloody lot to the dark. Less than 5 minutes later, trot, trot, trot. The sound of hurried footsteps approaches. The fat manager of the Black Gold Guild, with a dozen guards, armed with energy guns, arrives aggressively at the scene. Where is he? 5 against 1, and you let him run? When I catch that kid, ill personally, the manager's cursing, stops dead as he sees the scene. His facial fat trembles violently. His squinty little eyes are now wide open, bulging and bloodshot. 5 bodies. 5 headless bodies. His top enforcer, the Kraid-hardened skin leader, lies in the blood like a rag. The cut on his neck is as smooth as a mirror. A bone-chilling cold surges up the fat man's spine. With a thud, his legs give out and he collapses into the cold, viscous liquid. His lips quiver, his teeth chattering. This cut, he points at the mirror-smooth stump, his voice full of tears and dread. No cauterization. It's spatial severance. To use spatial laws so precisely and so terrifyingly, he must be at least peak Braid. No, an A-rank spatial master. The manager's head spins, his mind going blank. What kind of being did he provoke? When did Jiang City get such a god of slaughter? The night is deep. The rain has stopped. You put the black coat of Zero, the smiley mask, and the stained dagger into storage. Then you change back into that old uniform, scavenged and washed clean, and shoulder your faded backpack. You become an ordinary, even fray-looking student again. However, clothes can be changed, but the eyes cannot. The timid, repressed boy vanished in that rainy alley last night. Now, your gaze holds a cold, sharp edge, Soon? You arrive at Jiang City First Hospital. At the late-night payment window, the nurse was dozing off. But when you slam the card on the glass, she jumps in shock. Her annoyance didn't even have time to show. You look at her and say only one thing, Lin Sha. Use the best medication. Immediately, right now, there is 330,000 in the card. If it's not enough, you'll find a way. Your voice is raspy, leaving no room for argument. The nurse is stunned, looking at the high balance card, then back at your cheap school uniform. Her eyes are full of disbelief. A student dressed in poverty, dropping 330,000 star credits. The contrast leaves her speechless, but the balance doesn't lie. She quickly changes her attitude, calls the doctor, and arranges the highest level of care. Half an hour later, the Generapair serum is injected. You see your sister's paper-pale face finally regain a hint of color. Your tightly wound nerves finally begin to relax. The ward is very quiet. You sit by the bed, smoothing her sweat-soaked hair. Your movements are light. Only at this moment does the bone-chilling violence in your eyes slowly recedes, turning into an almost clumsy tenderness. Lin Sha is your only anchor in this cold world and your untouchable scale. Yet, though she is weak from illness, her mind remains sharp. Her eyelashes fluttered. As she slowly opened her eyes, she grabbed your hand and asked if you did something dangerous. She smelled the faint, yet unmistakable scent of rust and felt the unnatural coldness on you. Your heart jolted. However, you still forced a gentle smile, ruffled her hair as usual, and softly lied to her. I just sold that admission slot to a wealthy Chable heir. I got some money to treat you first. Hearing this, Lin Xia's eyes dimmed instantly. She knew what that slot meant to you and the sacrifices you made for it. Then, with teary eyes, she whispered that she's a burden, but you just flicked her nose and smiled, coaxing her like a child. It's just a stupid slot. It's fine if it's gone. Even without school, it'll still be the best. Don't overthink it now. Just focus on recovering. Once you're better, it'll take you for those sweets you like. After Lin Xia fell asleep again, you tucked her in, then you watched her for a long time. Until you left the ward, the last bit of warmth on your face completely vanished. In its place was a killing intent colder than night. Zhao Zi, stalling your slot, insulting your sister, and trampling your dignity. It's time to settle the score. The next morning, sunlight hit the gates of high school. But as it fell on you, it seemed blocked by an invisible chill. Like every day for the past 3 years, you entered with your old backpack, except this time, you didn't go to class. You went straight to the office and pulled out a social warrior exam form. Since Zhao Zi stole your spot, that path was closed. The school route is dead. In that case, you'll take a harder, more dangerous, but more direct path. The social warrior exam. High risk, taken by those without background or resources who risk their lives for a future, or those pushed to the edge with nowhere else to go, and you clearly belong to the latter. But as you left with the form, a grating voice came from the hall. Isn't this our school's genius? Lin, Anne. You looked up. Zhao Zi was approaching with his lackeys. He even had a girl on his arm. His face full of smug pride, that look was like a victor mocking others. After climbing over their bones, he walked up to you, looked you up and down, and began to jeer. He asked if you missed class. Because you were home crying, you ignored him and tried to walk past. But Zhao Zi grabbed your shoulder and looked down. His eyes fell on the form. He snatched it away, saw the words, froze for a second, then laughed like it was a huge joke. He laughed hysterically. Social warrior exam. Look at this, everyone. An E-rank storage user thinks he can take the social exam. Are you tired of living, planning to be delivery for monsters? He spoke loudly, and soon, a crowd of students gathered. Some whispered that you'd lost your mind. Others shook their heads, thinking this was suicide. Others just wanted a show. They wanted to see you crushed and see if you'd just submit again. In their eyes, your past endurance was mistaken for weakness, so they all thought this time would be no different. However, just as everyone thought that, Zhao Zi threw the form down. He raised his foot, wearing expensive tactical boots, and stomped on it. He ground it into the floor. While looking down at you, his tone was pure malice. Trash. Should stay where it belongs. This paper is just your delusion. It'll crush it, like an ant. In the past, you might have looked down, silently picked up the paper, and swallowed the shame. But things are different now. You slowly looked up. No angry roar, no tears of shame, only a terrifying calm. Those frighteningly dark eyes were like light-devouring abysses. A second later, without warning, bang, a dull thud echoed through the hallway. You shifted your weight, your right leg a blurred shadow, landing a powerful front kick straight into Zhao Zi's stomach. It was too fast and too heavy. His sneer didn't even fade. Before he was hit like by a beast, he doubled over, coughing up bile. Then he left the ground, flying back 3 meters. He slammed into the display case. The glass shattered instantly. Shards flew everywhere. The entire place went silent. No one expected you to fight back. No one expected you to take him out in one kick. Zhao Zi slid down like a pile of mud. Curling up on the floor, he was deathly pale, too pained to even scream. You just slowly withdrew your foot, still standing in place, as if that kick just now wasn't sending a man flying, but merely dusting off clothes. However, this was far from over. From the crowd behind Zhao Zi, a silent, buzzcat middle-aged man stepped out. His temples bulged high, his aura suddenly exploding. The floor tiles even cracked from the force. A power-type awakener, Zhao Zi's personal bodyguard, a hardened veteran from the military. Kid, you've got guts. With a thunderous roar, he lunged like a cannonball. Pot-sized fists whistled through the air, aiming straight for your face. The students panicked instantly. Screams, gasps, and scrambling footsteps merged into chaos. Everyone knew. For a power awakener of this level, shattering bones in one punch was no exaggeration. Yet, you didn't retreat. Not only did you stay, but just as the fist nearly touched your nose, you lunged forward. To be precise, you didn't charge, but like a drop of water, slipped eerily into his reach, closing the gap to within a meter. The bodyguard was momentarily stunned, then sneered, because in his eyes, close combat was the specialty of power awakeners. So, he immediately shifted his stance. Slamming his arms together, he aimed to crush your bones and organs into fine powder. Pity? He had no idea what being within a meter meant to you. It wasn't a fight, it was an execution. An invisible spatial ripple flashed and vanished. Without any extra movement, you simply let a thought drop. Space. Open. Edge. Covering the arm joints. Space. Close. Crack. After a bone-chilling snap, the school saw an unforgettable sight. The bodyguard's arms, an inch from your body, were severed cleanly at the elbows. The two severed forearms, still in a crushing posture, abruptly detached from his body. Then, with two thuds, they hit the floor. The cut was smooth as a mirror. First came dead silence. Then, crimson liquid erupted after a delay. Spraying from the eerie smooth stumps, it fanned across the hallway walls. The man looked at his empty elbows, then at his twitching arms on the floor. His ferocity completely froze. Until the next second, when the agony hit his brain, he let out a subhuman scream, collapsing to his knees and thrashing like a beast. At this moment, the hallway was pin-drop silent. Everyone was stunned. They didn't even see what you did. Not a trace of energy was detected. A drank awakener's arms, just gone, and you simply stepped over the wailing man and walked toward Zhao Zi. Right now, Zhao Zi was paralyzed with fear. His face was pale as paper, scrambling backward on all fours. His pants were quickly soaked. He had completely lost control. You walked up to him and stopped. Then, under hundreds of terrified, reverent, and horrified gazes, you slowly raised your foot. With that cheap, faded sneaker, you stomped on Zhao Zi's twisted face, grinding his head into the cold, broken glass. Humiliation. Unprecedented humiliation. Looking down at his terrified face, your voice wasn't loud, but like a polar current, it reached every ear. That recommendation spot, I don't care for it. At the grand exam, I will crush your pride before everyone. Personally shatter everything you take pride in. With that, you slowly lifted your foot. Without a second glance, you turned, bent down, and picked up the footprint-coved permit. Gently dusting it off, you shouldered your old bag. As the crowd automatically parted, you walked away. Sunlight through the window stretched your shadow long, lonely, silent, yet carrying a crushing pressure. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, the old principal watched the replay. His hands were shaking. The screen froze as the arms were cut. No obvious spiritual energy leak. No exaggerated energy surge. Even the ripples were negligible. The subtler it was, the more terrifying it became, because it meant your power wasn't a physical blow, but an effect on the rules. The principal was increasingly shaken. His teacup slipped and shattered on the floor. This isn't E-rank storage space. This is space law manifested. In that moment, he finally realized Zhang City had produced a true monster. He immediately hit the emergency button, ordering the footage to be classified as shrank secret. All original data was sealed. No one was allowed access. Furthermore, he ordered all your files. Re-evaluating the student, everyone dismissed. However, as the school realized your value, the Zhao family had developed true murderous intent. In the Zhao villa, the air was cold as a cellar. Zhao Zi, with his swollen face, lay on the sofa screaming for revenge. He wanted you dead. Zhao Jun stood by the window, listening in silence. Then, he made an encrypted call. The person on the line, Hyena, a team of outlaws, who did dirty work in the wild. Zhao Jun offered 10 million credits to take your life. Learning about the Drank bodyguard, Hyena raised the price. 5 million more for equipment. They would only stage an accident. The beasts would clean up the tracks. The military would find nothing. Zhao Jun agreed instantly. To him, it didn't matter what monster you were. Once you enter the wilderness, you'll eventually become a corpse torn apart by beasts. 3 days later, only half a month remains until the national ability exam. The Zhangcheng Military and the Education Bureau organized the final large-scale combat trial. The location is just outside the city. In Wilderness Zone 07, the reason this trial has all the seniors going crazy isn't just because it affects their exam evaluation, but because the military offered massive rewards, especially the prize for first place, an invaluable Level 3 Energy Core. This item is enough to make any awakened envious. Military hover buses fill the playground. Students gather in small groups, excited, nervous, and filled with anticipation. But you, carrying a worn-out tactical backpack, stand alone in the corner, out of place with everyone else. Since that hallway fight, no one dares come within 3 meters of you. You are like a block of ice, and like a black hole, instilling instinctive awe and an urge to stay away. Just then, a striking figure walks through the crowd to you. Suzu, the belle of Zhangcheng High School, and its recognized top genius. She awakened and shrank ice ability, and is always the center of praise. She wears a white, tight combat suit, her ice blue hair striking in the sun. She looks like a beautiful, sharp ice blade. She looks at you, her tone part warning, part habitual condescension. The wilderness isn't a school hallway. As an errant, you'd better stick with the main group. Don't lose your life trying to show off. From her perspective, this might count as kindness. But to you, this kindness based on superiority and expected obedience is simply annoying. So you just glance up at her and coldly reply with 2 words, too noisy. Suzu freezes instantly. She clearly didn't expect her proactive warning to be met with those words. Then her anger flares up. She turns away with a cold face, leaving behind a remark. What an ungrateful guy. Ill. See how you fail in there? But you just lower your head again, as if nothing happened. To you, insignificant people are just noise. Soon, the hoverbus passes the Alloy City gate and enters Wilderness Zone 07. This is a completely different world. Towering mutant trees, gnarled, thick vines, damp, putrid air, and a constant feeling of being watched. Every corner warns you. This is not a training ground, but a place where you can die. At the instructor's command, thousands of students rush into the jungle. Most are smart enough to form teams immediately. Groups of 10, groups of dozens, cautiously hunting Tier 1 beasts on the outskirts. After all, for average seniors, horned wolves and ironhide pigs are dangerous enough. But you didn't join any team. The moment you entered the jungle, you left the crowd behind and headed deep into the forest alone, aiming straight for the areas marked in bright red. Tier 2 beast territory. Others fear danger, so they huddle together. But you want efficiency. The forest is dimly lit. Normal people watch every tree for an ambush, but your mental power is spread like radar. Within a 100-meter radius, nothing escapes your senses. And so, the hunt begins. 30 meters ahead to the left, a Tier 2 venomous python flicks its tongue. Waiting for its prey, you don't even slow down. As you pass by, space opens and closes. Its head is already gone. A Tier 2 clawed cat eating a carcass is incredibly fast, with a lethal pounce. But as it leaps from the bushes, before it even lands, its head vanishes in midair. Only the headless body rolls away. Then there's the Tier 2 rock pang. It's shell tough enough to withstand axes. As it emerges halfway from the ground, both shell and flesh are sliced clean in half by space. With every kill, you extract the crystal core and toss it into storage. Your movements are skilled, calm, and efficient. Nothing is wasted. The numbers on your point bracelet are jumping rapidly. On the trial center's screen, your name is rocketed up from the thousands and breaks into the top 100, and it's still rising. However, just as you gut another python and grab its core, a chill of extreme danger explodes down your spine. Without thinking, your body's instinct is faster than your mind. You lunge forward and roll into the bushes. Almost at that same moment, a larger caliber sniper bullet screams past where you just stood. It slams into the massive tree behind you. Boom. The trunk shatters instantly, wood chips flying everywhere. This shot is not trial level. It's a professional assassination. You kneel in the shadows, eyes cold as ice. A larger caliber armor-piercing round, a precise snipe from a kilometer away, and a pre-planned ambush route. Besides the Zhao family, you can't think of anyone else. If they want to kill you, then none of them will leave alive. On a hilltop, a kilometer away, the sniper frowns. He thought this would be an easy task. But your evasive move was far too professional for a student. You're like a wolf from the wilderness. Soon after, the hyena squad tightens the net. 5 men, advancing from the front and wings, they want to trap you quickly. However, they think they are hunting you, unaware that a true hunter never waits to die in a trap. Your mental power has locked their positions, distances, and trajectories. So, instead of fleeing, you hug the shadows of the plants and slip through their weakest flank. Number 3 is the first to fall. Holding a tactical rifle, he was carefully clearing the area, never expected the danger wouldn't come from the front, but from overhead, just as he passed a massive ancient tree, you hung upside down from the canopy like a bat. He had just looked up. When you were already within a meter, space opened up, enveloping helmet and head, then closed. Squelch. The sound was almost inaudible. The hyena member didn't even have time to shout. Everything above the neck completely vanished. You caught the body, leaning it gently against the tree, not even the sound of a fall. Soon? No. 4 was ordered to check. He saw the bizarrely posed, but necklace body? In that instant, he went completely numb. Even his report had a clear tremor. But at that moment of distraction, you cut in from the side shadows again, a flash, and took his head too. In just 1 minute, the hyena squad lost 2 men, and both were silent executions. Now, even the seasoned hyena captain panicked. He finally realized this wasn't some student job, but a devil harvesting lives in the dark, so he roared for everyone to group up, while erupting his power, CLASS. See wind ability. Windblade storm? Instantly. Countless scion wind blades tore outward. Ancient trees, vines, shrubs, all shredded like paper. Hiding spots were cleared into a mess. And you finally appeared in his sight. The captain grinned savagely, thinking head finally cornered you. Meanwhile, a sniper a kilometer away locked the crosshairs on your brow, pulling the trigger without hesitation. This time, a killing angle. However, you didn't dodge, just as the armor-piercing round hit, and the spiral energy ruffled your hair. A centimeter from your brow, an invisible storage space opened. So, the tank-piercing bullet, with all its destructive energy, was swallowed by the space. No explosion, no deflection, not even a ripple. The storm faded. Dust settled slowly. In the clearing, you stood there quietly, unscathed. This scene made the captain's mind go blank, and you slowly turned your head, looking across a kilometer, precisely at the sniper's hill, lips parted slightly, to say 3 words. Back to you. Next second, the void opened again. That trapped bullet, at the exact same speed, at the exact same angle, shot back from the space. The sniper couldn't even react. A black dot grew in the scope. Then, the rifle and scope exploded. His own bullet pierced his right eye, taking his whole head off. Over the coms, only a short scream remained, then total silence. At this moment, the captain finally understood. He hadn't provoked some talented student, but a monster. So, his first thought wasn't to fight, but to flee. He erupted his wind power. Gale gathered at his feet. He turned to retreat, forming his strongest defense, wind barrier. But the problem was, wind is an element. Space is the rule holding it. Before true spatial laws, that wall could deflect shells, but was thin as paper. You just walked through, unhindered. Like passing through water, getting within a meter, then, raise hand, enclose head, close, squelch. His head flew up. In those eyes, utter shock and terror remained. The headless body froze for 2 seconds, before the crimson spray collapsed heavily. Thus, the hyena squad, all 5 were wiped out. From the first shot, to the captain's death, the whole process took less than 3 minutes. You didn't rush to loot, but checked the scene first, because you knew, in this dirty work, the truly valuable things aren't in the guns or the bags, but in the cum logs. Sure enough, soon, a military terminal was found. The moment you picked it up, Xiao Jun's grim voice came through. Hyena, is it done? The thing I told you to prepare. Beast attracting incense. Did you use it? Just throw it on him. Every beast within miles will come. Hell, be torn to pieces. The military will call it an accident. Hearing this, your movements stopped, but the emotions in your eyes weren't just killing intent. You finally understood what the Zhao family wanted wasn't just to kill you in the wild. Their real plan was to turn the area into a slaughterhouse, using students' lives to pave a dazzling and beautiful first place path. In other words, they'd step on everyone's lives. To put Zhao Zi on top, you crushed the communicator, then turned to the captain's bag. Soon, several burnt, darkered incense sticks appeared in your hand. That nauseatingly sweet smell confirmed Zhao Jun's words. High concentration incense. And, more than just a little, the Zhaos have gone mad. At that moment, the ground began to shake. Not just a tremor, but like the earth turning over, even the dirt and leaves underfoot shook. Then, deafening roars echoed from all sides. Giant trees fell in swaths. Dust billowed into the air. Countless scarlet eyes lit up the forest, rushing madly toward the trial zone. A beast tide, triggered by human folly, a tide far beyond this trial's level. With your power, you could easily walk away now. If you just hide, no beast could ever find you. But the problem is, if the tide overruns the camp and kills many candidates, this national exam will likely be postponed, or even cancelled. If that happens, your original plans, crushing Zhao Zi in public, taking first place, and that Tier 3 energy core, will be ruined by the Zhao family. Since that's the case, this beast tide is something you can't ignore. On your path, no one stands in your way, not the Zhaos, and not these things either. So you didn't back down. Instead, facing the devouring flood, you charged hidden. Meanwhile, Wilderness Area 07, Sector C, is already in total chaos. Su Zhu is leading students to hold the line. She keeps erecting ice walls, barely blocking the first wave. But on those ice walls, cracks soon spread. Beasts outside ram frantically, snarling and biting. The students are pale with fear. They're clearly at their limit. Someone cries out in panic, while others call for Zhao Zi, who always claimed to be strong. Where is he now? Then, a girl shouts through tears, "Don't count on him." When the wolves attacked, he used Li Ming as a shield and ran away alone. Those words crushed everyone's last hope. Zhao Zi, the boy usually so arrogant, the rich heir fawning over Su Zhu, chose to sacrifice his classmates just to save his own skin. Su Zhu was shocked and furious, but had no time for anger. For the next wave had arrived. The ice wall was shattering. She overexerted her powers, slammed her hands down, and unleashed her ultimate move. In an instant, a freezing wave exploded forth. Frost covered everything for Ibai Earth Drin. A dozen beasts froze solid. The tide was briefly suppressed. However, a skill of this level was too much for her to bear. As the skill faded, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Falling to one knee, her face was deathly pale, her energy spent. Just as she was depleted, boom, the ground ahead exploded. Dirt and rocks flew skyward. Over 15 meters long, clad in thick black armor, a horned prehistoric monster burst from the earth. A Tier 3 commander beast, the ironclad Earth Dragon. As it appeared, despair took the students. It shouldn't be in this trial. The students were at their limit. Unable to fight this thing, Su Zhu knew this too. Her energy was gone, too weak to lift a finger. She watched the beast's head descend. Its fangs bared wide, lunging straight at her. A foul stench hit her face. Death was inches away. She closed her eyes in despair. Just then, a black meteor tore through the canopy. From high above the trees, defying the laws of physics, it plummeted down. A crash shook the earth. That shadow, like a meteorite, slammed in front of Su Zhu. Shockwaves and dirt exploded, blasting in all directions, forcing the beast's head back. Su Zhu snapped her eyes open. What she saw was a figure's back, not a broad back, yet it held up the heavens. Carrying a faded backpack, he stood there quietly. In a deep, jagged crater, at his feet, was the dragon's fanged maw, just inches away. Lin An. Time seemed to stand still. The wind lifted your hair. You held your alloy blade. A figure not so large, yet like a mountain, blocking the Tier 3 commander. Shielding her from the storm, Su Zhu froze. Then her face turned pale. She gasped. Lin An, are you crazy? Run. It's a Tier 3 commander. It's bulletproof. You'll die. But you didn't even look back. The Earth Dragon was enraged. Its roar deafening, knocking the students unconscious. Then, its spiked tail lashed out. Trees and rocks shattered. Pure destruction. Face it, and you'll lose. Defeat is certain. But if you retreat, everyone behind you dies. In a split second, your mind made its choice. 1 cubic meter of space can't fit its whole head. Normal cuts won't work. To kill it, you must strike its weak point. Go for the vitals. And so, as the tail lashed out, you bent back impossibly far, narrowly dodging the blow. Then, instead of retreating, you lunged forward, like a shell at the beast. Su Zhu turned pale. To her, this wasn't a fight. It was suicide. Sure enough, the dragon missed and raised a massive claw to crush you. But then, as the shadow loomed, you suddenly dropped low. In an extreme slide, you slid under its belly. Snick. Boom. A giant claw slams down. A deep crater explodes instantly. Su Zhu watches through her fingers. She is completely stunned. She knows, of course. The belly is the dragon's weakest point, but that's only relatively speaking. Its scales are still ridiculously thick. Normal attacks can't break through, but you never intended to break them? Beneath the giant beast, the space is narrow. Foul mucus and dirt drip down. You steady your stance, discarding the useless alloy blade. Then you look up. Using your perception, you lock onto its beating heart. The next second, you slowly raise your hands, pressing against the cold, hard scales. No slashing, no charging power, only an almost eerie touch. Silently, spatial ripples pierce the scales, opening inside the dragon's chest. In this moment, your eyes are cold as judgment. For me, shatter. The command is given. A cubic meter of absolute void envelops the car-sized heart. Then it slams shut. Squelch? A dull cutting sound echoes from within. The dragon's thunderous roar stops abruptly. Its massive body stiffens. Fury fades from its crimson eyes, leaving only instinctual fear. It looks unharmed on the outside, but it can clearly feel The source of its strength is suddenly gone. You seize the moment it's frozen and slide out from beneath it. You don't even look back. 2 seconds later, the mountain-like beast loses support. It collapses with a roar. The earth itself trembles. Amidst the swirling dust, Suzu stares at the rank 3 commander, dead despite no external wounds. She looks like her soul was drained. Her ice age couldn't even delay it. But you, the rank, mediocre talent, with only a single touch, killed it on the spot. This isn't just a gap in strength. This is something she can't comprehend. You walk over to the beast with a single thought. The massive tire-sized heart, top sliced, smooth as a mirror, drops. Expressionless. You reach inside, quickly pulling out of it pitch black crystal, with flowing lava inside, a rank 3 commander's Earth Dragon Core. Suzu finally regains her senses. Her voice is dry. Lin, Anne, just who are you? But you only give her a cold look. Out of my way. 3 words. Shut down all her questions. Afterward, you grab the dragon's hideous horn. Taking a deep breath, you drag the multi-tine beast away. Walking toward the trial camp, 67. That slender figure from behind, dragging the mountain-like monster. In the dim woods and beast roars, it's like a painting of a god descending. Suzu stares blankly, thinking of Xiaozi, who fled. Her disgust peaks. At the same time, the image of your back is branded into her mind. Meanwhile, the camp is already in chaos. The outer defenses are crumbling. Soldiers are evacuating students. Inside headquarters, the colonel glares at the radar points. His face is grim. He scolds the intelligence department. Just then, Zhao Zi rushes in on all fours. 2. Falling to the ground, he shouts through tears. Sir, I know how the horde started. It was Lin Anne. That a rank loser did it? The colonel frowns. Make yourself clear. And so, Zhao Zi begins to twist the truth, claiming you got beast-attracting incense and threw it everywhere, saying you wanted everyone dead. In other words, Hayes using your presumed death to pin all the blame on you, washing himself as the hero. As the colonel's face darkens, Zhao Zi gloats internally, just as Hayes about to add more fuel. Right then, heavy footsteps shake the ground. They come from the camp entrance. The sound gets closer, stepping on everyone's heartbeats. Soon, the mist is slowly torn open. Under everyone's horrified gaze, you drag the rank 3 commander. By your hand alone, walking into the camp, you are covered in mud, your face cold. Like a demon from purgatory, ignoring all stares. You walk straight to Zhao Zi. Then you take the hyena squad's bag and the crushed communicator and slam them at his feet. The Zhao family owes me an explanation. Are these things you dropped? Dead silence. All sound is drained from the camp. Zhao Zi's fake grief freezes, replaced by extreme terror. Hayes pale as a ghost. He blurted out, "You're not dead." He realized too late. He had confessed. You ignore him. Kicking the bag open, burned incense sticks, the hyena leader's ID tag, and the glowing communicator all roll out. Then, you press the play button. Zhao Zhang's urgent voice echoes through the camp. Just throw that thing on him. All nearby beasts will be lured. Hell, be torn to pieces. The military will call it an accident. The evidence is absolute. The crowd erupts. The Zhaos really did it. Hiring killers, they tried to kill us all. Zhao Zi is scum. The colonel's face is incredibly grim. But Zhao Zi won't give up, screaming on the ground. He asks how an E-rank could do this. How you could drag a rank 3 dragon? It's all At this, you finally sneer. E-rank. You raise your hand, showing a stained student monitor. You mean any rank. Just happened to find your crime? The next second, you crack the monitor's permissions. Footage is projected on the screen. In the video, the horned wolf pounces. Xiao Zi doesn't save anyone. Instead, he shoved Li Ming out to shield himself. Then he fled without even looking back. The final shot froze on his face, hideous and twisted with excitement. If the recording only provoked their anger, then this footage completely ignited their killing intent. Zhao Zi, give me back my brother's life. Scum like you doesn't deserve to live. Just then, Suzu arrived, supported by several girls. Her face was pale, but she still testified through gritted teeth. I can prove it. Zhao Zi abandoned us to save his own life. It was Lin Anne who saved everyone. With the Shrank Genius's testimony, Zhao Zi's last struggle was crushed. The colonel took a deep breath, turned abruptly, and ordered the team to seize Zhao Zi in custody, transfer him to the highest military court trial. Zhao Zi completely broke down, screaming shrilly for his father. Just as the enforcement team moved in, "Who dares touch my son?" A roar erupted like thunder. A rank 5 pressure so terrifying the air solidified. It swept through the entire field. The students fell to their knees in unison. The weaker ones fainted instantly. Immediately after, a luxurious, middle-aged figure appeared before Zhao Zi. He shielded him behind his back. Head of the Xiao family, Zhao Jun, he didn't even look at the evidence. He stared straight at you instead, killing intent surging in his eyes. "Boy, how dare you slander my son and ruin my family's reputation? No one can save you today." Before he finished speaking, A giant energy claw lunged at your head, rank 5. Is that supposed to be strong? You stood your ground, not a trace of fear in your eyes, only a destructive urge born of pure rage. Space began to warp before your brow. You were ready to risk severe injury, just to cripple Zhao Zhang's arm, but suddenly, at the critical moment, insolent, a roar more domineering than Xiao Jun's exploded right in front of you, unnoticed. The colonel had moved to block you. With no flashy movements, he simply threw a single punch. The result? Xiao Zhang's giant energy claw shattered. The force slammed into Xiao Zhang's chest, sending him flying as he spat blood. He crashed through several tents before falling. One punch. A rank 5 was severely wounded. Rank 6. The colonel slowly withdrew his fist, his gaze terrifyingly cold. In my military camp, openly attacking a witness and the champion, Zhao Jun. Do you want your whole family executed? This single sentence sealed the fate of the Zhao father and son. Soon, they were dragged away like broken sacks. The conspiracy the Zhao family designed was fully exposed before the crowd. The camp fell into a dead silence. When the students looked at you again, their shock had turned to awe, even fear. When the colonel turned to you, his anger had vanished, replaced by blatant burning admiration. Lin, Anne, you killed the rank 3 commander. The armored Earth Dragon, you exposed criminals and saved your classmates. Your achievements are outstanding. By unanimous decision of H, you are the champion of this trial. Saying this, he took a special metal case from his adjutant and handed it to you. This is your reward, a rank 3 Earth Dragon core. Then, he made an offer that would drive many mad. Furthermore, I officially invite you on behalf of the sector. Are you interested in skipping all procedures to join directly? The Azure Dragon Special Ops Team. You took the case. Feeling the surging energy inside, the weight on your heart finally eased. But then, you looked up and slowly shook your head. Sorry, sir. Before the first join the military, I must use this. To save my sister's life, you rushed back to the hospital. But fate seemed to be mocking you. When you opened the ICU door, your sister wasn't sleeping peacefully. Instead, there was a deafening, piercing alarm. The ward was cold as an ice cellar. Lin Jia lay on the bed, covered in a visible layer of frost. Ice crystals grew even on the bed rails. Her lips were purple. Her breathing had almost stopped. The monitor was flashing red with alerts. Your head spun. You rushed to the doctor. Your voice was hoarse. What happened? She was fine when I left. The doctor broke into a cold sweat, speaking so fast he could barely breathe. It mutated. Inside your sister, the Abyss Frost Syndrome has suddenly turned malignant. The chill seems to have a mind of its own, rejecting and devouring all energy. The energy liquid we tried to inject was completely frozen. Saying this, he looked at the metal case in your hand. His eyes held both hope and a death sentence. The Earth Dragon core is too violent. Using it now won't save her. It's like pouring water into boiling oil. It would ignite the chill inside her, turning her to ice instantly. Those words shattered the hope you fought for. You froze in place, staring at the girl with frosted eyelashes, all emotion drained from your face, leaving only a deathly calm. Then, what do we do? The doctor swallowed hard, giving the only answer: within 3 days, you must find a core that matches. With pure, clean energy, a rank for Ice Soul Core. Only that can soothe her. Rather than fight the mutated chill, that is the only chance. 3 days, a rank for Ice Soul Core. It's almost impossible. Rank for cores are strategic materials, let alone a rare Ice Soul variant. The open market will have none. Even if the military has one, you can't access it yet. So, you didn't waste another word. You just walked out to the end of the hall, took out that old black phone, and sent an encrypted message. Seeking rank for Ice Soul Core. Time limit 1. 3 days. Price unlimited. The phone replied almost instantly. Open market. Military arsenal. 3 pieces. Insufficient clearance. Unable to exchange. The only clue. Tonight? Jiangcheng? Underground? Shurafield. The 100-man slaughter. The ultimate victory challenge reward. Shurafield. The bloodiest place in Jiangcheng's underworld. The most insane, lawless land. The 100-man slaughter. In a single night. Face 100 fighters from prison. The battlefield? Or outlaws picked from the wastes. A fight to the death. No rest in between. Only 3 successes in 100 years. The failure rate is nearly 100 funterum. But after you glanced at the ICU door with a red light, every trace of hesitation in your eyes vanished. Since there is no other choice, then carve out a path by force. Midnight. The old industrial zone, an abandoned steel mill converted into a massive arena. The air was thick with sweat, alcohol, and foul stenches. Heavy metal music was deafening. Thousands of spectators roared like madmen. You wore that pale, rigid, smiling mask. When you walked to the backstage registry, the burly man with the scorpion tattoo just glanced at you, then sneered and told you to get lost. He said this is the Shurafield, not a playground for kids. You didn't waste words with him. You just picked up the stained life and death waiver and bit down hard on your own thumb. Blood welled up, expressionless. You took that warm, bloody print and pressed it heavily onto the signature line. Then you looked up, staring at him through the rigid smiling mask. No more talk. Bring on the 100 people. All at once, or one by one. The man had been in the Shura field for over a decade, had seen outlaws, and had seen lunatics. But that single gaze sent a chill down his spine. He didn't say another word, just handed you a black number tag. Then, you turned around and walked toward the Iron Gate to Hell. Round 1. The opponent, Black Ape, Level 2, Peak Beastkin, standing over 2.5 meters tall, covered in black fur. With immense strength, famous for his brutality. The crowd was jeering and mocking. They thought your frail frame wouldn't even fill his teeth. However, the moment the referee shouted, "Start," Black Ape roared and lunged. His massive palm was about to crush your head, but just before he touched you, you simply tilted your body, passing that massive frame by a hair. Squelch. After a soft sound, Black Ape crashed into the iron cage. Then, under thousands of watchful eyes, that head, still bearing a hideous grin, slid smoothly off his neck, crimson sprayed toward the ceiling. The arena fell into a dead silence, then erupted into total chaos. The name 9527 echoed through the Shura field for the first time. But following that, round 2. Round 30, everyone gradually realized what they were seeing was not a competition, but a one-sided harvest. A speed-type ability user moved like a phantom, but the moment he got close, his body was split down the middle. A fire manipulator rained flames everywhere, but you walked through them like a curtain, right up to his face. In the next second, his head rolled on the ground, and later, whether it was a frontal assault, an ambush, Lagrange, or a group attack, the result was the same. A single fatal strike. No wasted moves. No flashy collisions. No real battle to speak of. You simply approached, and then the opponent fell. Consequently, the cheers from the stands grew sparse, replaced by a stifling silence and sharp gasps, because everyone could see it now. You weren't here to challenge the 100-man slaughter. You were clearing the field. You were harvesting them. By the end of the 99th round, the referee announced in a trembling voice, the winner, you stood in the center of the fallen. On a floor of pure crimson, that pale smiling mask had long been stained dark red, and as you stood there, not even your breathing rhythm had changed. The entire Shura field was silent. At the same time, in a luxury VIP box at the top, Master Jin's face was terrifyingly grim. That level for Ice Soul Core was placed here by a provincial big shot as a gimmick. No one ever intended for it to be taken. But now, you were just one step away from claiming it. Master Jin sneered and pressed the red button on the wall. Activate. The cleaner. Protocol. Send in. Titan. Rumble. Inside the octagon cage, the massive alloy door, leading to the final challenge, slowly rose, a ferocity 100 times more terrifying than all previous opponents combined. Poured out from the darkness behind the door, a giant nearly 3 meters tall, with muscles like forged steel and skin with a bronze metallic luster, stepped out. With every step he took, the entire cage trembled. In the stands, the silent crowd erupted into screams of terror. It's Titan, the invincible Titan? Wasn't he locked in the bottom of Black Prison? How did he get out? The masked guy is dead meat now. Titan once tore a level 4 beast apart with his bare hands. Titan walked to the center of the ring, ignoring the bodies strewn across the floor. His massive eyes locked onto you. He grinned, revealing a row of stark white teeth. His voice was like grinding metal. Kid, your killing game ends here. Now, it's my turn. Titan's voice sounded like rusty plates rubbing together. Yet more chilling than any roar. Kid, your killing game ends here. Now, it's my turn. The crowd froze for a moment, then exploded into even louder screams. Everyone recognized this trimmed, bronze metallic monster, Titan, the cleaner, the Shura field's true ultimate trump card. His tier for absolute hardening makes his flesh harder than top-tier alloy. Normal cutting-type abilities are useless against him. But unfortunately, you're too lazy to respond with even a single word. The next second, your figure vanishes from the spot. When you reappear, you've already ghosted to Titan's left side. The military dagger in your hand traces a pitch-black arc, heading straight for his neck. This strike even carries a trace of basic spatial compression power, let alone flesh and blood. Even tank armor should be sliced clean through. However, clang. An ear-piercing screech suddenly explodes. Sparks fly everywhere. That sharp steel-cutting dagger in your hand actually shatters inch by inch the moment it touches his skin. As for Titan's neck, only a faint white mark remains, vanishing almost instantly. Titan finally laughs. The laughter makes the entire octagonal cage tremble. Little bug, I told you, your little cutting tricks don't work on me. Before the words fade, he throws a backhand punch. No flashy energy, no complex moves, just pure power condensed to the extreme. Too fast, you can clearly see the trajectory, but your body can't dodge in time. You can only cross your arms in front of your chest. The punch hits like a maglev train at full speed. It slams into you with brute force. You're sent flying backward, smashing into the alloy mesh. A huge human-shaped dent bulges out of the mesh instantly. Then, a mouthful of liquid flows from under your mask, staining your combat suit red. The whole arena goes silent. Then, even crazier cheers erupt. Those who were silenced by the fear of you slaying 99 people now found a vent for their emotions, roaring desperately, waiting to see you get crushed. Inside the VIP box, Lord Jin picks up his wine glass again. His expression is contemptuous and relaxed. In his eyes, you're just a guy who relies on weird tricks to act tough. But Titan represents true power. However, leaning against the wire mesh, you slowly wipe the liquid from your mouth. Your eyes remain cold without a hint of emotion. You've already reached a conclusion. Conventional spatial cutting isn't absolutely invincible. When the target's density and energy exceed a certain threshold, the resulting sheer force is greatly weakened. In other words, cutting from the outside won't break his defense anytime soon, but the problem is, you don't have time to waste. Your sister is still waiting in the hospital. The tier for Ice Soul Crystal Core is right there. Since the outside doesn't work, then it'll go from the inside. And so, you stand up straight again. Seeing this, Titan's eyes show a hint of mockery. Still able to move? I guess I didn't use enough force. You still don't answer. You just, once again, take the initiative to charge. To everyone else, it looks like a moth to a flame. Titan thinks so too. This time, Hei's too lazy to even punch. Instead, he opens his arms with a grin, intending to crush you to death, to grind your bones and organs into powder. 10 meters, 5 meters. At the moment they're about to collide, your body suddenly drops, avoiding his mountain-like chest. Like a slippery shadow, you zip past his side. Meanwhile, you spread the fingers of your right hand and lightly press them against his temple. That action was almost like a lover's caress. Titan's grin didn't even have time to fade, but in your eyes, there was only extreme cold and madness. Space. Open. This time, it wasn't a cut from the outside, nor a decapitation by closing a gap. Directly inside that indestructible skull, in the core area protected by thick bone, you forced open a cubic space 1 centimeter wide. It existed for only an instant. Then, returned to normal. The most basic law of the universe completed a cycle of creation and annihilation in a billionth of a second. Titan froze. His gaze, expression, and movements were all frozen in this moment. Then, a streak of red liquid slowly trickled from his left ear. Then the right ear, nostrils, and corners of the eyes. 7 trails of liquid flowed down that bronze face, forming an extremely eerie pattern. The next second, that mountain-like body fell straight down. It slammed heavily onto the cage floor. The Tier 4 body enhancement powerhouse, Titan the Scavenger, died on the spot. The entire Field was instantly hit by the mute button. The music stopped. Every expression froze on every face. Thousands of eyes stared at the bleeding body. Then they looked at you standing there. No wounds, no struggle, just one touch. Then, the god fell. After a brief dead silence, a glass fell from a businessman's hand in the front row. It was like a switch had been flipped. The next second, the entire arena completely erupted. Countless spectators were screaming, crying out as they pushed to get out. They just wanted to flee this purgatory-like place. But you ignored the chaos. You looked up. Through the layers of the crowd, you looked toward the luxury box on the top floor. Your voice was slightly raspy from your injuries, yet it remained cold and clear. 100 matches. It's over. The tier for Ice Soul Crystal Core. Hand it over. As the words fell, the crowd's movements paused. Yes, you won. The 100-man slaughter was complete. According to the rules, the prize should be yours. However, Lord Jin clearly never intended to follow the rules. He stood in front of the microphone. His sneer spread through the speakers to the whole arena. You did indeed give me a surprise. Unfortunately, did you think your little tricks could hide from everyone? Titan's body is harder than a warship's armor. Yet he fell silently. Without a single decent wound, this is clearly or some banned neurotoxin method. Therefore, you have violated the rules. According to the first iron rule of the Field, if a challenger uses forbidden techniques, their results are void, and the prize is confiscated. At these words, the crowd erupted in an uproar again. Double-crossed? Everyone understood instantly. What Lord Jin wanted wasn't just the crystal core, but your one-hit kill secret technique. He wants both the man and the treasure. To swallow them whole? Immediately after, he added with feigned generosity, however, I can give you a way out. Hand over your secret arts, and I'll let you live. I'll even let you be my most valuable dog. You stand there, slowly raising your head. In this moment, the last bit of rules, patience in your eyes, has completely shattered. You followed their game, killing 100 through blood and pain. But now, the dealer tells you, you won. But I don't accept it. Then there's nothing left to say. You just chuckled softly. Hey, Lord Jin was clearly enraged by that laugh. He ordered immediately, take him down, dead or alive. I want his secrets. In the next instant, the octagon's 8 alloy gates rose at once. Squads of fully armed, black exoskeleton, gauze-wielding private corporate soldiers surged out of the darkness like a tide. The dark muzzles and glowing blue sights all locked onto you at once. Exactly 100 men, and every single one is a battle-hardened veteran. The stands erupted in chaos. Survivors hammered on the doors like mad. Everyone knew Once the Asura Field's scavenger unit is deployed, this place truly becomes a slaughterhouse. But you, standing in the center of the circle, slowly drop the remains of your shattered dagger. Since they don't follow the rules, then your rules are the rules? Fire. At the captain's command, 100 Gauss rifles spat fire, dense alloy slugs tore through the air, weaving a net of death from all sides. Instantly, your figure was swallowed whole. Gunsmoke, flashes, and screams exploded all at once. Yet, strangely, after the gunfire ceased, you were still standing there, unscathed. Within 1 meter of your body, space warped into a bizarre funhouse mirror state. Thousands of tank-piercing alloy slugs were all pulled into that distorted zone, suspended in mid-air like insects in amber. Their kinetic energy was stripped away. Imprisoned, after grinding together in that tight space, the slugs began to glow crimson, buzzing incessantly. The private soldiers were stunned. They'd seen ballistic shields, energy barriers, and espers who could tank bullets, but never someone who could stop bullets in mid-air. This wasn't defense. This was an interdict. You raise your hand toward that warped space of suspended death and close your fist. Now, it's my turn. In the next second, you pivot sharply, sweeping your arm across that space imprisoning the crimson slugs. Was hurled into the densest squad on the left. Simultaneously, space snapped back to normal, and all kinetic energy was instantly returned. Whiz 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 whiz. No gunfire, only waves of air-ending shrieks. The slugs flooded back faster than they came, forming a fan-shaped crimson barrage. Dozens in the front rank couldn't even react. Before being pierced, exoskeletons, bones, and flesh were all a joke in that instant. Massive clouds of red mist erupted, staining the entire battlefield scarlet. The survivors were driven mad with fear. Some retreated, others blindly hurled grenades and molotovs, trying to bury you under sheer firepower. However, you didn't even look. Explosions, flames, shockwaves, and flying shrapnel. Far from harming you, they were all swallowed by the warped space. That single cubic meter of space now resembled an out-of-control star, packed with pure violent explosive energy. Then, you charged in. You strolled through the sea of fire, approaching the panicked soldiers, your eyes locking onto the fleeing captain. Immediately after, you released your grip on space. Returning this to you, boom. Compressed explosive energy unleashed instantly, creating a 10-meter fireball of death, sweeping out in all directions. A dozen soldiers caught in the blast were vaporized instantly with their armor. Those on the edge were ignited by the heat, then shredded by high-speed shrapnel. Their screams blown to pieces. This was no longer a battle. This was a massacre. Your space had become a terrifying mobile arsenal. The stronger the enemy's fire, the more lethal your return fire, superior numbers, and suppressive fire. Before true spatial laws were merely a joke. Soon, only wails and the sound of fire remained. The captain, surviving the first blast, dragged his charred body toward the top floor VIP box. He cried out for help. Inside the box, Lord Jin had collapsed onto the sofa. Watching the hellscape on the monitors, his face showed nothing but raw terror. He once thought you just had a secret move, but now, he finally understood. He hadn't provoked a mere madman with secret arts, but an absolute monster. So, he turned and ran. However, had barely taken 2 steps when a loud bang came from behind. The captain, like a tattered sack, was kicked through the door and rolled to his feet. The captain croaked twice, pointed at the door. Then his head slumped, and he breathed his last. Lord Jin turned his head stiffly. Amidst the dust outside, you slowly walked in. You were covered in filth. Your white smiling mask stained dark red. The eyes behind the mask were terrifyingly calm. You didn't waste words. Walking to the supposedly impenetrable glass, you slowly raised your right hand, your fingers pressed against it. In the next second, centering on your palm, black web-like cracks spread over the glass. This wasn't a normal fracture. Space itself was being torn apart. Lord Jin's composure finally shattered, screaming for it to stop, even bringing up the barriers. The glass's military origin, offering money, using the Wang family background, begging for life with rewards. Unfortunately, to you, these words were mere wind. You clenched your fist. Crack. Buzz? After an eerie muffled sound, the bulletproof glass and alloy wall were ripped out by you, leaving a perfect thermometer hole. The massive wall crashed down, shaking the entire booth. Master Jin's final sense of safety was shattered along with it. He fell to his knees, kowtowing frantically, face covered in snot and tears. Don't kill me. I'll give it to you, everything. The level 4 core is in the safe. You grabbed him by the hair, lifting him off the ground, dragging him like a sack to the safe. After iris and fingerprint scans, the safe slowly opened. A frigid chill filled the room. Jin, trembling, held out a blue box. Holding it above his head, you took the box, flipping it open with one hand. The fist-sized crystal inside, crystal clear throughout, with an icy storm swirling inside, instantly caught your eye. That pure, extreme chill Made your spatial power vibrate? It's the real deal. You stored it in your space. Master Jin, seeing it handed over, actually tried to beg for his life, even mentioning the Wang family, hoping his background would save him. Unfortunately, before he could finish, an invisible blade flashed. His voice stopped abruptly. Head and body separated instantly. It rolled onto the floor. Blood sprayed from the neck. Splashing across your body, you kicked the twitching corpse aside, your voice cold and flat. I don't care who you are. Unpulled roots will strike back eventually. This lesson, you learned in the slums long ago. Having what you came for, you didn't leave immediately, but sliced open the gas main. High-pressure gas hissed out, quickly filling the room. Then, you lit a lighter, tossing the flame into the tomb. And then, you turned and walked out without looking back. Seconds later, boom, an earth-shattering blast erupted. Fire swept through the Shura field. Steel twisted, walls collapsed. This place that took many lives finally met its destruction. Facing the heat and fire, you walked up the stairs. Pushing open the heavy iron door, the morning sun hit your face. You raised your hand, slowly removing the red mask, revealing a pale, sharp young face. The ice soul core, secured. Next, save my sister. As for the other debts, they'll be settled later. At dawn, you rushed through the hospital, the sleepy doctor startled. When you slammed the cold box hard onto the desk, he woke up instantly. His voice even cracked. A level 4 ice soul crystal core. Soon, the ICU lit up again. Top physicians, sterile labs, dilution procedures, energy guidance, processes usually impossible now, were forced ahead by the core. Standing outside the glass, you stared at Lin Xia. The diluted ice blue energy was injected into her. At first, the monitors fluctuated wildly. You could hear your racing heart. However, after a moment, a change finally occurred. The lethal frost began to fade. Her lips regained their color. Her faint heartbeat went from 30 to 40 and kept rising until it stabilized. The harsh alarms in the room went silent one by one. As the first light hit the hall, the doctor removed his mask, tired but clearly excited. Success. Her functions are stable. She just needs rest now. This sentence removed your last support. Your tight nerves finally relaxed. Exhaustion flooded your body. You sat by her bedside, watching her resting face. Your eyelids grew heavy, and you fell fast asleep. For the first time in a long time, you slept peacefully. But you didn't know? The cold energy in Lin Xia, after stabilizing her life, had a small amount left over. That pure strand of energy followed your blood connection, silently flowing into you. To the level for Crystal, the residue was negligible. But for the current you, it triggered a transformation. After some time, you woke up startled. At first a sharp pain, like a steel needle in your mind. But then, pure pleasure took over. You clearly felt it. The barrier limiting your power was shattered by the energy. Psychic threshold breached. Spatial control surged, checking your ability core. Then, your breath hitched. The tiny storage space was being torn open wider. Expansion, explosive volume growth, 2 cubic meters. In just a few breaths, the box-sized space expanded into a warehouse. However, that wasn't the best part. As the expansion finished, a new law imprint was carved into the core. With a thought, you stored a glass of water, then triggered the new imprint. The water froze instantly. Even a falling droplet, suspended in midair, time seemed paused in that space. You understood immediately. Absolute stasis. Anything non-living stored there will have its state locked. If a living thing is forced inside, its life functions will drop to near zero. Like being trapped in a time-frozen cage. What does this mean? It means you can store more than just warheads, flames, explosions, and shockwaves. In the moment an enemy strikes, you can take their attacks, or even limbs, and put them into the space. Even more terrifying, you can briefly store your own body parts and release them elsewhere, creating a strange teleport-like strike. This is no longer a quantitative change, but a qualitative transformation. You clench your fist, feeling unprecedented spatial power within. A cold light glints in your eyes. Now, even facing a true rank 5 powerhouse, you're no longer just gambling with your life. Just then, on the TV outside the ward, a news broadcast blares. Today, the National Awakener College entrance exam officially begins in the capital. Hundreds of A and Shrank geniuses, from top plans and the military, have gathered in the capital. They will compete for seats in the top 3 academies. In a month-long battle, on the screen, young, proud, and glamorous faces flash by, clad in ornate combat suits, with prominent family crests behind them. Under a sea of camera flashes, as if born to stand above the clouds, you stand by the window, quietly watching the screen. As your gaze slowly turns cold, these people are this world's true, heaven's favored ones. Resources, pedigree, placement, and prestige. They were born holding it all. But you crawled out of the ruins, dark alleys, and life-or-death struggles. But because of that, you have even more reason to go. You enter the bathroom and wash away the grime, changing into a black combat suit. Then, grabbing the long blade from the safe, you take one last look at your sleeping sister. She finally survived. So next, it's your turn to settle scores. You push open the hospital doors. The midday sun is sharp as a blade. You just squint. Then you step out. Jong City, this place of darkness and struggle, was just the starting zone. The real hunting ground is in the capital. Let those elite geniuses feel true despair. This game has only just begun.